In a world where two short-term rental bros come together.
What?
Not in that way, bro. There's a podcast of truly epic proportions where we talk about all things short-term rental and shoot the shit along the way. Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast. Here are your hosts, Matt Codd and Austin Spitz.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Bros Podcast. My name is Matt Codd, and I'm here with my buddy Austin Spitz. And today we have a special guest, Cody Ball from Ball B&B. First, I want to say what's up to Austin. I'll let Austin say what's up to Cody, and then we'll get this ball rolling. What's going on? Oh, that was kind of worked out, the ball rolling. So what's going on, Austin?
Nice pun there. And everything's good.
Yeah.
I feel like I say the same. I feel like I say the same thing every time on the intro. Just chugging along and trying to figure it out, man. Happy to have Cody here.
I'm pumped to be here, fellas. I listen to you guys all the time. Hopefully this podcast is a lot of fun. We get to learn some people up on some STRs and some co-hosting. Looking forward to it, boys.
All right. Yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah, it's awesome that you say that you listen to our podcast because I don't know, we're just two jokers with a mic, and it's good to see that people are out there listening. I think the feedback has been good at this point, and we're consistently posting. So I appreciate that. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. I mean, I imagine I don't have a podcast, but I imagine it's kind of hard to get started in this and find your footing. But yeah, I get tons of value out of it. Guys,
I'm waiting to see your 5-star review. We are running a contest if you hadn't noticed yet.
I'll get on there.
Awesome, man. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so I'll kind of just give a little bit of background. So I'm from Kansas City, born and raised there. I was an athlete in college, played baseball at a small college in Southeast Kansas, and got an exercise science degree. And for those of you out there who have an exercise science degree or maybe have children that are thinking about it, don't let them do it. You have one too? Oh my gosh. I should have.
Yeah, I got a degree. I got a degree in kinesiology and whatever, exercise sports science, and I do nothing with it. Never did anything with it. I went in straight into sales and then started businesses. So yeah. But I liked the courses and everything I studied was really interesting. But how did that apply to the real world? It didn't,
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much like every other baseball player. Hey, I want to be a coach and I like to work out, so let's try exercise science. But
exactly
all you can do with it is go to more school or get a personal training certificate, which you don't even need a degree for. So that was kind of pointless.
Yeah, so I think I had a really high GPA, and I had a bunch of observing hours, and I was going to go to physical therapy school, but it was like I really didn't want to do that. It was just like it sounds like it would be a cool career, make $80,000-$100,000 whatever they make, and chill living. It's a good deal, and I didn't get into physical therapy school, so then I was just like, okay, well, didn't really want to do it bad enough to take a year off and go try it again. I was like, I really didn't want to do that anyway, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yep. No, that's actually a perfect segue. So I by the way, I'm married, have 2 kids, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. I've been with my wife since I was 15. So we were together through college, all that stuff. She was a pediatric nurse at a children's hospital in Kansas City. And at that point in our life, I was like, well, can't do anything with this degree. I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. My dad, he owns a county trash business in Kansas. And so I kind of just have that ingrained in me a little bit. And so out of college, I really wanted to start my own business, but I was like, well, that's risky. I'll try a sales career because I can still have that unlimited potential, but not have the risk associated with your business. So I literally Googled entry-level sales jobs in Kansas City, applied to the first one, and it was a Medicare insurance call center in Kansas City. And so that's where I got started out. Fast forward, that was back in 2015. I was a sales agent, worked my way up into a leadership role, helped that company scale from, I think we were like 50 employees, and then we were 1,200 when I left this spring, but learned a ton about sales, leadership, building an organization, operations, all those things. I wore a lot of different hats, so it was super valuable. I'm super thankful for my time there. But ultimately, I got the entrepreneurial itch again in 2021, bought 2 long-term properties in Kansas City thought, hey, I'll buy 20 of these things, one a year, and I'll retire a rich man. And then a couple of years went by. We're in 2023. I'm like, man, I don't really want to wait till I'm 60 or 65 to retire. That seems kind of dumb. So I ended up, the first thing that cued me into short-term rentals was I listened to that podcast that probably everybody that watches the show has listened to. It's Avery Carl's first Bigger Pockets podcast, where she kind of goes through supercharging your cash flow so you can buy more long-term rentals. And that resonated with me at that time. So listen to that podcast. That was in May. Read her book also in May. Started looking for an STR to purchase. We're beach people, so we kind of started in the Emerald Coast area. And we ended up closing on a 4-bedroom, 4-bath beach cottage across the street from the beach in Gulf Shores in the summer of 2023, July of 2023. So that was our first, we bought that property. That was our first experience of short-term rentals. Learned how to do the management stuff through the short-term shop and had pretty good success out of the gate. I mean, we were kind of crushing everybody in our community within those first 2 or 3 months. And I kind of started to figure out like, hey, we got our system set up and this is pretty easy. It's actually kind of fun. It's really good money. I hear people talking about co-hosting. And so I start looking into that. And this was it was October of 2023. I decided to go all in on a co-hosting business, really to just get more cash flow to buy more short terms. And I joined Mike Shogren's STR Secrets Mastermind in October of last year and started my co-hosting business, Ball B&B. We got our first client in Gulf Shores who was actually in the same cottage community that we are in. We got her in November of last year, so really only a month into it. Bless her heart. She's our first client. I love her to pieces. Can't believe she took a chance on us, but I'm so glad that she did. So we got our first co-host client in November of last year. We got up to 5 by the summer of this year, and then rolled through the summer, and now we are going from 5 to 13. I'm currently onboarding 8 properties right now. 9 of them are in Gulf Shores. Other 4 are in Hot Springs, Arkansas, that I got through a person that also owns in Gulf Shores. So that's where we sit right now. So fire away, fellas. What do you got for questions?
That's super impressive. For one, I didn't know what degrees you guys were fucking talking about until you both had one. And then you guys both started going back and forth. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I couldn't even spell telekinesis or whatever word you said, Austin.
It actually is a telekinesis degree. Let's do that.
I don't know what he said. I mean, it's been so long. My short-term memory is shot up. It's out the window. See, I just forgot what question I was going to ask too, so it's pretty awesome. So do you think that by you joining a mastermind just like excelled you into what you wanted to do?
I do, because, well, the first thing is like, it's a big decision, right? Those things aren't cheap. And so my first inclination was, well, if I'm going to drop this much money on learning how to do this, like, I'm not going to fail at this. So if nothing else, if joining a mastermind kicks you in the ass to get you to take a bunch of action, do it for that reason. But so there was that first thing. And then, I mean, the community's fantastic. They have a ton of coursework, which is really awesome. And especially in getting set up and setting your foundations right. But Mike's group is also really big on mindset, because you really have to kind of change your self-image from, I'm used to a W-2, stability, all these things. And then it's like, all right, I want to be an entrepreneur. I think I want to be. Then these opportunities come at you, and it's kind of scary, to be honest with you. So to be able to, I don't know, level yourself up, you need that mindset support. And I would say that's probably been the biggest help of the mastermind so far.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. How about the leveraging the connections in the mastermind? Because in his, for sure, I mean, definitely you have access to a lot of people that are very skilled at different things. So it's almost like what I noticed for me is, if I don't have the skill set or I don't have the answer, I have the connection or I know the person that does that. So like, talk about that. Like, is there an abundance of that in the mastermind as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I didn't know anybody in the STR space when I first got into it. So I immediately had this huge network of people that were just starting out, didn't even own a property, but getting into coasting. And you got those, then you've got people that have 100+ properties already in that group running a full property management company. So, and I mean, I feel like part of the deal of anyone that joins one of those things. You have to be open to be willing to help other people as well as get feedback. And so as long as you're open and you're not shy to reach out, there is an abundance of people in that community that will help you out with anything. I mean, it really has been fantastic. Plus you have an individual coach. So I meet with Dave Menapace is my coach. I meet with him every single week, and I can ask him anything. He can check me on things, because if you meet every week, you get to know people pretty well. So, I mean, the resources is just outstanding. I think that I could have done it without it, but I wouldn't have been able to do it as fast without the mastermind for sure.
So, so as far as your systems, because this is like what I've been thinking about a lot. So, how are you billing your clients? Are you using trust accounting? Are you, what are you doing as far as coming with the expenses for your co-host clients, what they, your fees, their fee? Are you just putting your split on Airbnb and then just invoicing like Verbo, other things, whatever? Like, how are you collecting your money?
Yeah, so it's co-hosting model. So payouts from Airbnb, Verbo, and my direct site go directly to the owner. I invoice for my co-host commission at the end of each month. In terms of cleans, I actually have their credit card billed for the cleans, and any maintenance that we have, I get it confirmed by them first, and then we bill their credit card. So I don't touch their money. I'm not getting reimbursed for anything. It is all any fee, any maintenance or cleanings that's going directly to their card. I keep track of it for them. I keep their receipts, and I keep a spreadsheet that shows what their expenses are. But for me, it's just as simple as, punching in their credit card and we have an expense, invoicing for my fee at the end of every month, owner payouts from the platforms go directly to them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I set it up when I first got started. I think I'm switching. There's no correct answer, right? Like depends on, like, some people do it that way. That's how I did it. And then I'm just going to pivot to do like the traditional property management structure. Um, but I guess it just depends on what works best for you. Like if that works best for you and you're making money, then that's perfect. And it kind of also comes to like what are your long-term goals and what does your end game look like, I think we had a podcast guest, Aaron, right? Aaron
Yeah,
Kirkham, right?
Aaron
Recently.
Kirkham.
Yeah. He got my mind kind of working around building a property management company versus doing co-hosting. There's so many pros and cons to each side, and it's kind of hard to figure out which bucket you come into. And I've realized that if I want to build a business that is scalable and sellable, I think that episode he really opened up my mind to switching to property management. So that's what I'm going to do, just because it's more it's not that to say that you can't necessarily sell a co-hosting business. I just think it's easier to exit from if you structure it like a property management company where you own the listings, you know, you're collecting the funds and you do it that way. So I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. So it's interesting to hear how you do it, because I essentially did it exactly the same way that you did. But if it works,
I can definitely see. I mean, we're at 5 right now. We're about to be at 13. So I imagine we get a little bit hairier when we're at 13 to do it the way that I'm doing it. So actually, question for you, Austin. So when you say I want to do it more like a typical property manager, does that mean you're going to get licensed and everything to go that route, or like explain what you mean with that?
That's a good point. I didn't touch on that. That's a great point. So I think you need to know what are the rules in your market where you're operating. So like I'm in Texas, so you don't need any licensing. You don't need a broker's license. I'm not an attorney. Don't try and sue me if I'm wrong or nothing. But I'm just saying based off of what I know. In Texas, you don't need to do that. So you don't need a broker's license to be a property manager. It depends on what market you're in. So I guess to answer your question, if you're limited by that, then co-hosting is your only option. You don't even have to think about that. So, but I think it's not as scary as you would think it would be. And if you have the option to do it, it might be something you want to entertain before you take on the next 13 properties, because if it's as simple as switching to trust accounting, it'll be a little annoying at first to do it, but then you switch to the trust accounting, and then just you'll have to have people sign a new contract with the way that it's supposed to be structured, which is what we're going to do. But yeah, I don't know, because if you're in a market that you need a license, then that obviously goes out the window, right?
Yeah, in Alabama, you do. And honestly, I'm in the middle of doing, I think you call it pre-work. I'm doing the pre-work to get my license right now, just because, and I may not ever go into full-blown property management. I might do coasting forever, but I feel like it can't be a bad idea. will get it.
Yeah, but where's your LLC located? So you got to find out where the laws are, where your LLC is located, or where you're actually managing. Like Austin said, I'm looking at trust accounting too. I have a demo tomorrow with Get Clearing, and it just seems like it just totally just saves everything. Like it just makes everything streamlined and easy for you, and they're relatively inexpensive. I know Aaron was talking about VR platform, and I looked into them as well. But I think for a small operator, I think price range Get Clearing seems like a better option. You know, it's about $35-$40 a month. You could DM me too if you forget, Cody. But you can jump on my demo call too and just act like you're my partner if you really want to see it tomorrow. I'll send you a link. But it's relatively inexpensive. I think with VR platform, it was like it wasn't too bad, but you had to have a minimum amount of properties, and it really didn't save you too much. But like I put the same number on both of them, and Get Clearing was a little bit cheaper, offered the same exact stuff. It integrates with your QuickBooks, so your invoices basically, you're not touching any money, and it's just using virtual accounts and things. So it's interesting. I think that it'll be easier. And Austin and I have had several conversations, and I remember one time we were having a conversation, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I just need my invoices paid. I got $20,000 waiting to get paid." And some of that's cleaning fees that he's charging on his credit card, right? Which is all fun and games until you got to foot the bill. But then I'm thinking like, okay, so what happens if you get fucked? You're going to have time to sue him, right? So Aaron Kirkham had a really good point, and actually his episode, I think, is dropping next week. Maybe, next week, I think. But it made a lot of sense. And the more and more I looked into it, the more and more I read it, like it was like, okay, like this just saved me all kinds of time, all kinds of, bookkeeping time and things like that too. So yeah, maybe it's something to look into, especially when you go to 13,
Definitely.
So.
Yeah. I mean, all going from 5 to 30, I mean, literally it's happened within the past month. So I'm like, I feel like I'm a step behind you guys, and I'm like trying to figure out the best way to move to that next step of scale. So yes, any resources, please. I need them.
No, man, I think
get
you're
some of
kinda
those
right
big
on.
people on. Sorry, Austin.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right in line with where we are, man. Like that's really good. I experienced the same thing in my business. Just like once I started getting some momentum, it just kind of exploded, and now it's just like that stuff that organically just keeps coming to me. So it's all those seeds that you planted that kind of are starting to sprout, and then now it's like, oh, he does this, he's building a name for himself in whatever market, and that kind of leads me to my next question. Was like, a lot of people that I talk about in this industry are always talking about different ways to get clients. So what have you experienced the most success in regards to, you talk about being in sales, from like a sales aspect of it? How are you acquiring like most of your clients? Like what methods?
Yeah. So I'll just walk through it because there's few enough of them where I can walk through each of them. So the first one was just a Facebook group. They said, "Hey," it was my community's Facebook group. It was, "Hey, my home is sitting empty in September. How's everybody else doing? Oh, we're 70% booked in September. Who's your manager? Well, we actually manage ourselves, but we're thinking about managing others. You want to talk?" And that's what the first deal. That was the first deal. Second deal, actually, this would have been second, third. The second, third, and fourth deals were realtor referrals. So once I decided to get into the coasting business, I just reached out to I sent all of them an email, got them on the phone. Any realtor that I had worked with out on the Emerald Coast, and said, "Hey, I'm going to start coasting. If you guys need me to put together projections for a buyer or a seller for a property, reach out to me. I'd love to help you guys." And so that was how my next three came on. The one after that was a cleaner referral. The same thing. I reached out to my realtor network and my cleaner, was like, "Hey, we're doing this. If you have anybody, let me know." So that was the fifth one. Then the rest of them have all been going to. Actually, I did a drive for dollars thing. So I was in Gulf Shores in February, and I drove around, and I basically just had my wife write down the addresses of every house that I would like to manage. And then I went into AirDNA, filtered like I think it was 3 bedrooms and up, and was just looking at properties that were underperforming, figured out the addresses of them through there, and then found them on the county tax records and found the owners. And then I was doing cold outreach. So either cold calling, cold texting. And then once I did the initial reach out, if I didn't get any response from them, I'd hit them with an email a week for 8 weeks after that. So, I mean, I'm from the call center space. I've got no issue reaching out to people repeatedly. I mean, to be honest, in the space that I was in, it was Medicare sales. We're reaching out to people that were 67 years old 7 times a day if they don't pick up the phone. So that part of it isn't a block for me. But it's more just the time to do the prospecting, because I never went down the road of getting paying a skip tracer to do it for me. So there you go.
Yeah, dude, I think you named the best ways that I got my rapid growth really fast. Facebook groups is easy, but a lot of times it's like somebody asks about something and then 12 other people comment and say, I do this, I do this, I do this. So it's like sometimes that goes nowhere, but it worked for you. And it's worked for me before as well. And then realtor referrals, that's been huge. And then kind of skip tracing to get to the owner. Like those are the three best ways. I feel like those are the three. That's the secret sauce right there. And if you could just hammer those three and spend all your time on those three, I think you can move the needle for sure. And I don't know, Matt does kind of like you have like a mass marketing thing. I've never tried anything like that. I'm just not the tech savvy. I haven't spent the time to figure it out, but I'm sure something like that you could get the leads too that way. But
that's what I was going to ask him actually about, like your emails. So are they just follow-up emails, or is it like a funnel, or is it like let me help you, like this increases to this does this, how can I help you, whatever, or are you just sending them like a follow-up email like, hey Austin, I missed you missed my call, blah blah, whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I typed up all of them and I send all of them manually. I have, dude, yeah, you guys are going to shake your head.
We can get you automatic on that. I can help you with that.
Well, so I have mark on my STR and I know the capabilities is in there, but I just haven't dove in enough to figure out how to use it. So dude, I'm seriously, offline. Yeah, we'll take offline. So seriously, I am, go ahead, Austin.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, so I've had really good success exactly saying what you're doing. It's time consuming and it's not, the best way to do it, but I've had success for like identifying struggling listings and doing exactly what you're doing and doing a cold outreach and a cold personal text with their names, like with their address, and saying, I love this feature, your hot tub, it looks great. These are some things I noticed that are not very good, your reviews, your cleaning rating, whatever the case may be, but it's very specific to their property. So you're like, hey, like he's directly hitting me. But now you don't reach a lot of people, but it's very personalized to where like, you're like, no, I have their phone number. I know they read it because it says read and it says, this is what we do. And it's those really work, but are they a good source of your time? Maybe if you're getting clients from it, which we have, but it is a lot more time consuming, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What I did to kind of figure this out was when again, I ran a sales call center, so I'm just metrics are everything to me. So first thing I do what?
It's easy for you.
It is, right? So I went into the mastermind within the first couple of weeks. I was like, all right, can somebody tell me how many times I need to reach out before I get a hello? Of those hellos, how many of them am I going to get to an appointment? And of those appointments, how many am I going to close? And then I just backed into everything else from there. And from all that, what I came down to is I reach out to 20 people a week. I'll close one property a month. And it hasn't been perfect like that, but it's been pretty damn close over the course of the past year. I mean, I've got 13 clients. So it's like, it's just, it's crazy.
That's what I was going to ask, what your metric breakdown was on that. But yeah, it's funny because we were calling some people the other day and we called this one lady, and you call like the really elderly people. And she was like, oh, yeah, I'm interested. She's like, can you send me a letter? I'm like, in the mail? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, sure, no problem. Let me get to the mailbox for you. I'm glad I have some stamps. I just thought it was so funny because she was just like, yeah, that sounds great. Can you send me a letter? And I'm like, okay.
Everyone says that direct mail works extremely well in this business. Like, I talked to Ventori and they're like, I know it seems nuts, but direct mail freaking works in this business.
So I guess my little secret, huh? I use direct mail for one. For two, I actually do work at the Postal Service. So I know a lot about direct mail. And then me and actually Bill and I were talking about it on his podcast, which haven't been released yet. It hurts my feelings, but it's okay. And it's funny because we were talking about like a higher client for him. And I was telling him like, Direct mail is different. So like if I look at your mail and you send me direct mail, I already know it's garbage before I open it. I don't have to open your letter to know it's garbage. But if you send it to me first class and you write handwriting on it or something, I'll more than likely open that. And then like if it's like a higher ticket client, like say you got somebody and you just can't get them, and like you just constantly talk to this beachfront owner in Gulf Shores going to make 220, and you're like, damn it, I got to get him pushed. Send him a special offer, send him a priority envelope with tracking. He will open it. He will not have a choice. He will open it. And that's something we were doing when we used to do like pre-foreclosures. Like it was a tip, was like throw in a FedEx envelope, put it on the door. Someone's going to open it because it's in a FedEx envelope, right? They're going to think it's important.
Smart.
So there's different things that you can do with mail. It's just mail gets expensive sometimes. I mean, blasting a postcard to everybody, hella easy, hella cheap, 18.5 cents, whatever. But if I mail it to everybody in, let's say, my cul-de-sac, only one person's going to have a second home to rent. The rest of them are useless. It was a waste of my money, right, at that point. So I might as well just be more targeted and spend more money per lead if you're going to do that, like mail-wise. But we could talk about that later too. But yeah.
So here's the question I have with that. So you've got the lady on the phone that wanted you to send her mail. So when you send her the mail, is it the mail say, hey, can we set up a call? Because you're already on the call with her. So like, what's the point? What's the action item of the mail? Like, hey, I'm going to send you a letter and we'll set up a call. What's the point there?
It was like a personal letter, but it also included like the other stuff from the letter that I had sent to you. Had all the breakdowns and everything like that. And then
makes sense,
I sent it on Saturday. So I'd say she'll probably get it. Today's what, Wednesday? She probably gets it today. I'll probably call her on Monday again and say, hey, did you get my letter? And then go from there. But I also know the thing about, I mean, you got to think about, if you break it down, like you're from sales thing. So if you break it down, like in general, if I have an older person, 9 times out of 10, they're going to either answer a direct phone call, an email, or letter. They're not going to respond to your text, and more than likely, if you get them an email, they're going to open it because the email came around and they loved email, and your grandfather would send your grandmother stupid shit through the email. It's like you older people, and just like same thing. Like if you get a VRBO person, at least in my area, if I get someone from VRBO, I'm going to either text them off platform or I'm going to call them because they are not going to respond to any message I send through the platform. All they know how to is book. That's all they know. Most of them are elderly. So it's like, that's just how it works. But I mean, you got to think about everybody's different. So there's different solutions to things.
Yep.
I mean, that's how I try to think of things.
I think also from a sales perspective, anytime you can find, like Austin said, finding something specific when you reach out to them, like any common ground whatsoever that can separate you from the mass texts or emails or whatever that they're getting. Like the big deal that we just got that was 5 total properties. How that one came about was the house. I mean, it's like an 8-bedroom beachfront in Gulf Shores. It's huge. It's awesome. And it was for sale, and it's across the street from where our cottage is. I wrote down his address in February, texted him. He didn't answer. Sent him an email. It would have been about 6 weeks ago, and he happened to be looking at his email, and he called me right from it. And it was the fact that it was like an introductory email, like, hey, my name's Cody. This is what we do. Well, yada, yada. Here's a picture of our property, and his freaking property's in the background. And so he's like, hey, I just got your email, and yeah, I own that property across the street from you. And I'm in the middle of, transitioning to another property manager, but it's not working. I've got one huge mega property in Gulf Shores, and I've got 4 other ones in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Let's talk about it. And so, I mean, that was how that one came about. So, and again, it's like cast a wide net. You never know. I mean, it's just cast a wide net and see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you did that, and his house is in the background. He's just like, oh, this makes a lot of sense to me. But one thing I do, like one thing that has worked for me that I would say, like just a little quick tip, is on the messaging that I do. If I know my market like the back of my hand, I'm only outreaching to properties I know that can do X amount, right? So if I look at the listing and the review and I know they're not doing X amount, I will specifically text them and say a number that I know exactly what I'll do. Hey, so and so, my name's Austin. This is what we do. I saw your listing. We manage whatever intro.
Hey, everybody, this is Matt from the Co-Host Bros podcast. I recently came back from a mastermind trip, and I spent a lot of time talking about taxes with Ryan Bakke. So Ryan normally took on clients that had 10 plus listings. Well, he created a brand new program where he's going to take on people between 1 and 10 listings for a lot cheaper at a small business owner price. It's going to include on-demand support, monthly calls, and tax prep. They're going to do little coaching calls monthly, things like that, to help you save as much money as possible on your taxes in the future, including on this year. Ryan has helped thousands of people save money, investors especially, and you really don't want to sleep on this because I think the price will go up at some point. You're going to save far more money than you spend. If you're really interested in changing CPAs and finding something better, go ahead and click the link that I posted for you inside the show notes. Now we're going back to the show.
Intro, and then I like this about your property. It's like if you're not at least making, so let's say the property is supposed to be doing $100,000 in gross revenue, and it's of a cost listing. It looks like crap. Their calendar's empty, and you just say something like, "Hey, if you're not at least doing 70K or 80K in gross revenue, I would probably book a call with me ASAP because your property manager is doing you a disservice." And then I just ghost them. And it's like, I'm not desperate. I'm not going to follow up. I'm just saying, hey, this is what I do. If you're not doing that, then call me. And then at that point, it's like, okay, well, if they end up signing with me, I know that I can make 70, 80 easy, but I know they're not making that. Realistically, I know I'm going to do 100,000. So then it's already setting the expectation like, yeah, we'll do like 80. Then you start blowing up out of the water. They sign with you for a year. After a year, you're like, no, we overdid the 70, 80. I quoted, we're actually gonna do 100. They're with you for life. So, and we've had a few that did transpire that way. But I guess my message there is just like, if you're comfortable enough and you know your market, because you could end up sticking your foot in your mouth if you're over quoting people and you don't deliver on what you say you're going to do. So underquote them, but find that happy medium to where you know they're not making that much money, but you know you can still make it. So I don't know. Went on a tangent there, but I like that. I like that. I like that move. That move's worked for me.
The hook, man. Under promise and over deliver. And if even if your under promise is way better than what they have, I mean, that's a huge win for them. And that's just going to make them even more happy to stick with you. It's good. I love that.
Yeah, so we just had like a property that for one of those properties, I think it was a specific example was like I only just said like 40 or 50,000 if it wasn't doing that, knowing I could get 60. I started talking to them and they're like, we did like 19K last year. And it was like, okay, it was the easiest close ever because I was like, I know I'm gonna do that. And now I over delivered on it. So I don't know. That's worked for me.
I can get you 25. No.
Yeah, we don't even want to target those properties, right? Like that's
right.
Oh, speaking of that, I got a good question for you. So what's the W-2 situation like? Are you at a point where
I was gonna ask that too.
Yeah.
good.
So
Good deal.
yeah, so I left my high demand W-2 in April of this year. So now I'm doing consulting for a leadership development company and doing this also. So it's a little bit more flexible. I mean, when I was running the call center, I mean, my days are just stacked with meetings and it was really hard. I was having to get up really early, like 4:30 in the morning, work at night after my kids went to bed. And I was like, this isn't really sustainable. And got a good opportunity with the company that I'm with now. So I've got a nice, happy medium going on right now, which has been great. So I've got a decently full work day, but so I still get up early and have to work late sometimes, but it's a far cry from what it was a year ago. I'll tell you that. Brutal a year ago.
So when is the stopping point for you for that to go all in? That's the question. Or do you not want to go all in? Or you just like, hey, I just want extra vacation money because maybe some people don't want to build a big management company. Like what does your long-term goals look like?
So my end goal is to make $1 million from real estate, period. And that's from both my management company and from investments of my own. Frankly, I think that I will continue to work my W-2. At least, I mean, things could change, right? I don't know how big I'm going to get, but as things are right now, I'm like, I'll continue to work my W-2, hire some people to help me on the co-hosting business, continue to buy properties really quickly with my co-hosting money, because to me, that's the ultimate stability. Having a bunch of properties that you own, to me, is the ultimate stability. Then you've got the management business as well. To me, that I wouldn't call it an end goal, but like the milestone that I'm going for right now is $1 million a year from real estate alone. And then if I get to that point and I decide I want to stay on my W-2, great. If I don't, then I won't. So I don't I don't want to commit to that, but I am committed to that $1 million a year from real estate number.
So you're taking your proceeds from being a co-host and recycling that into buying lifestyle type assets for yourself? Or are you trying to still buy cash flowing assets that are making profit? Or
Cash
like,
flowing
is it like,
assets. They're not for me. They're
okay,
not lifestyle. They're
so
cash flowing.
nothing, just cash flowing assets?
Yeah. I'm trying
Okay.
to get to that $1 million as fast as possible.
$1 million what though? A year? $1 million worth of real estate? $1 million a month?
$1 million a year.
A year. Okay.
Yep.
You keep saying $1 million, but you don't say how you don't want it a minute or what? Every minute? I mean, Jeff Bezos got it. No,
No,
So
my wife and I put together basically a dream budget of if money weren't an object, what do we think that we would spend? What would we want to do? What would we want to buy? Who would we in our family? We've got family with some health problems. What can we do to provide for them? Take care of our parents and all that stuff. And we came out to $850,000 a year. So we're like, screw it. Let's add 20% onto it, make it $1 million. So
for sure.
that's where that came from. Yeah.
So I mean, so everybody's involved in the business. The wife, the kids. You get the kids
Yes.
involved in everything. So you're just, you're teaching them young on how to break free from the W-2, right?
You got it. You got it. It's awesome too, man. I mean, no one tells you how fun that part of it is, but it is really cool. It's really cool to be like, I'll be honest, being a senior vice president of sales for an insurance call center, like if I was 75 years old sitting in my rocking chair, I would be like, man, like I'm really proud of the life that I had. Like, but now when you actually tell your kids like, hey, you can go do whatever you want to do. And this is what I wanted to do. And look what I put myself out there. I took action. This is what I did. And it's actually happening. It's like, to me, I don't know. We call, you set goals and stuff, but really it's like being able to say when I'm 80 years old that I actually took action towards the things that I actually wanted for my life. And then I set that example for my kids. It's like, I don't know what's better than that. I don't. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, senior vice president sounds cool, but at what expense, right? So I mean, I've spent a lot of time.
Center, it's like,
yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, it's management in general, man. I mean, I've been managing in a long time, and I've been in your position, on the phone from 5 until 9, and nonstop all the time. So I get it. Like it's terrible, especially when you're on the phone for things you don't want to be on the phone for.
Yeah.
So there's also like power in the fact that of like you're essentially free, right? Because you're not choosing, you're choosing to work. You don't have to work, right? Like
exactly.
So if you have this cash flowing business on the side and a new boss comes in and he's horrible or whatever, or the work environment changes, or they drop your pay or whatever the case may be, and they add more hours, whatever it is, at that point you can just say like, I actually don't have to be here, and now is the time that I'll leave. So if it jeopardizes your health or it takes too much time, some people just are stuck there because they're like, hey, I have all these bills piling up and I have no other options. So you have that freedom to where it's like, that's the power in it for me, because it's like I have the power to choose to be here. I really don't have to. So if I get upset or pissed off, it's like, well, I already have this over here, and I will go back and do all in on myself and build my business because I have other money coming in, right?
Freedom of choice, man. Always want to have the leverage in any situation. I mean, to be able to have the freedom to, hey, I don't like this. What's happened? I don't need this. I'm going to go do something else because it's not worth my time or my energy anymore. It's like, and I mean, this 5 property deal that we just signed on. I mean, I'll now make more in the management business than I will in my W-2. So, I mean, you guys caught me like right in the prime, like we just got there. So the over the moon reaction was like a week ago. Now it's like, all right, we got to onboard 5 properties now. So let's go.
So talk about that process. How did you get talk about the 5, go a little bit into the 5 property deal. How did you get it, and how'd you close it, and why'd they choose you? Just give us a quick rundown.
So like I said, it was this gentleman that owned that 8-bedroom in Gulf Shores. And he was managing 3 of his own properties, and then he had 2 more that he was managing for somebody else. So, but he was a full-blown property manager, so he had that. But he's an older guy, and he decided he wanted to retire and get out of it. And so he was in the process. I don't think his business is really big enough to sell. So he was really just going to hand over the management contract, especially since 3 of the 5 properties were his. So he was in negotiations with another manager in Hot Springs. And for whatever reason, those negotiations fell through. And I happened to reach out to him during that time frame. And I mean, I think our first phone call was in maybe the first week of September or something like that. And we just now, in this week, have gotten contract signed and started onboarding. But how that deal happened was I mean, gosh, it's been such a long process. So the first thing was send him that email. He called me, said, "Hey, it's like at 8 o'clock at night, but I want to talk to you about this." So we set a phone call for the next day. And he basically asked me a bunch of questions about, I mean, he's knowledgeable. He owns a property management company, so he's knowledgeable. He's like, let me know what your fees are. Let me know what you think that our properties can do from a projection standpoint. So I put all of that in an email for him. And then I actually, this is a really good tip for listeners. I always, when I do if I send somebody like an informative email, I always do a video and attach it to it of me talking through the information so I can add context to it. Because a lot of times, like most of the time, you want to meet in person and just go through it. But if you can't, having that personal touch on the video, I think made a world of difference because I went through on that. Hey, this is what co-hosting is versus property management. This is how it's advantageous to you. This is what our fees are. This is what I think we can do for each property. Here's the process that we follow to go through to get to these revenue numbers for each property. Here's why it doesn't matter that I'm not in Hot Springs, Arkansas, just like it doesn't matter that I'm not in Gulf Shores, Alabama. So I sent him all that. And then we went back and forth on the negotiations for the fee because it was a pretty big deal. These 5 properties combined do like 1.3 million in revenue between the 5 of them. So I normally charge 18%, but we got a little flexible with this situation because it was such a great deal. And then, now we're in the onboarding phase. So I know that was kind of broad, but dive in, feel free.
I think that video is genius.
Yeah.
So
I wrote that down as a note. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, because I'm always emailing people projections and trying to set up calls and stuff. And I was like, yeah, it adds that personal touch to it. So I put that on a note to implement that for sure.
I mean, I'll send the videos to my guests, like high-paying guests like Bill does, but I never thought about sending a video to a client. I ran targeted Facebook ads to a client with a video, but I never thought about adding a video to the email. So that's actually pretty smart. I'm gonna use that for sure.
A lot of times there's just so much that goes into this. It's like people are going to see a huge email, like a freaking novel of an email, or it's like, or you can click on the video and just watch me talk through it. And they're always going to do that. So it works.
Oh man, if you're just doing, I'm just doing basic math in my head. I don't know what the specs of the deal was, but if 1 million, 20%, 200,000, whatever job I'm at, I'm out.
You can imagine awesome, how excited we are about this situation.
Yeah, awesome. We can increase the revenue to 1.5. Then what?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, and they're cool people too. We actually went. This is another part of it. Kansas City's only about 6.5 hours from Hot Springs, Arkansas. So we drove down there. We stayed in their home. We met with them. We had dinner with them. We walked them through kind of our process. And I mean, they had maintenance people and cleaning people. And we met all of them, and we're going to use those people because they've been in place for them already. So that was pretty seamless. But with this, I think it's not always necessary, but with big properties or big deals, or if it's just, important to somebody, I think going down there to meet with them in person is another huge thing to do as well. So.
Wow. I'm flabbergasted. So let's so since we are kind of like a co-hosting podcast, so let's break down your onboarding fee. Let's break down what you're using it for, what you're not using it for, and those kinds of things. So like if there was somebody that just wanted to like just get started and they're like, oh, I got my first deal now, what do I charge the onboarding fee, or why? What rule of thumb do you use? Because I know everybody does theirs different. So what do you charge for onboarding fee? What's included in your onboarding fee? Is it a range? Is it, per bedrooms, whatever the case may be?
You guys are gonna laugh. I don't have an onboarding fee. I don't do an onboarding fee.
That's legit. Okay.
I don't either.
So then
my logic on fees is, like I said, our standard rate's 18%. When I first started, it was 15% because I wanted to get some properties under our belt, but it's 18% now. And I have a minimum. I won't take on a property that will pay us less than 10 grand in commission. So at 18%, that's about 60 grand or 55, 60 grand, somewhere in there is our minimum. I would consider taking on a property that does less than that, but we'll charge 20, 25%, 30%, which in most cases I'm like, hey, somebody else will do this for 20% instead of 30%. So do that. But those are really the only bases I have for fees.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think like you should do that. You should do the work, and if they sign the contract. And I think it also like it depends on how competitive the property is. Like to your point, like if it's $50,000-$60,000 property, then maybe you can charge a higher percentage because you're not making as much and there's the same amount of work involved. But when it comes to things like onboarding fees, especially if it's a property you really want, like why make yourself why not just lose that money up front to secure the contract versus saying, yeah, it's a $2,500 onboarding fee and you're neck and neck with somebody, it's $150,000, $200,000, three, whatever, however much that you really want, and they say, hey, well, we kind of went with Joe because Joe over here, he doesn't have an onboarding fee, so that was kind of the deal breaker for us. And it's just like, why even put yourself in that situation? So I mean, obviously the onboarding expenses, like whatever the locks and the thermostats and whatever the cost of doing that is, I agree. But I think I've been pretty firm on that for a while now. I don't see the value in it, right? Like you're trying to sign them. So
I mean, the owner covers that stuff. I just don't consolidate it into a fee. And so if we have locks or if we want to put stay-fi in or if we need to change the thermostat, like we charge the owner for that, but we just don't consolidate into a fee, which again, scalability, right? I mean, if those are just things that I haven't got to yet, that actually probably makes sense. So yeah, there you go.
Are you implementing stay-fi in your units?
Yeah, we do stay-fi. And then I've got the funnel set up on Mark on my STR, 200-day funnel. To text an email back to guests. I've got all that set up and it's automated. But I need to get the CRM and co-hosting side set up too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's a lot of people I've talked to that collect their emails and then they just collect their emails and they don't do anything with their emails. It's really easy to create a funnel and just keep adding stuff to that funnel. Luckily, if you use my STR, the funnel is created for you. I mean, you just have to set it up. But yeah, I mean, definitely you got to retarget those guests. That's awesome. So is there, I mean, I know your goal is to hit $1 million a year, but let's be realistic. And then you hit that goal, you're going to keep going. So at what point do you think you will actually stop, if you will stop? Like, what is your grand vision? Like, how many properties do you think you're going to be managing? Or you're just going until you're gone, like whatever?
So that's a really good question. I will never stop because I love the chase. I'll always do something. Even if I'm not doing real estate, I'll always do something. I'll never just retire and sit on my butt for all day long. Just never happened. Right now, 50 properties is kind of that number that I think that if I had 50 properties plus along the way was acquiring real estate, I think that's kind of that sweet spot of getting to the $1 million a year. I think I would eventually like the property management company to be mostly passive. There are pieces of it that I really love. I think if it was totally up to me, I would only do owner, like the sales calls with potential clients. I would do that because I love it. I would do revenue management because I also love that piece of it. And then owner communication, maybe not. That one would be like one of the last things to fall down. But if somebody else were to handle guest communication, vendor, managing the vendors, checking on the properties, like all the other things that are associated with the operations type stuff. And I just did revenue management and client meetings and maybe some owner communication. That would be ideal for me. But I do also, so this is again, 50 properties. Yes, that's a financial target, but also I think there's at some point some sort of degradation of how well you can do for your individual owners past a certain number of properties. I think 50 is reasonable. If you've got how many employees do you think you guys would need to manage a portfolio of 50 properties?
Depends on what you had them do, I guess.
I would say this for people that I know that have that size, I would say four or five VAs, and then maybe like four, not employees, like not cleaning in house. I would guess like one person for operations, one person for sales, one person for I guess like CEO kind of hat, and then one like property manager. So I'd say like maybe four-ish employees, four-ish VAs, that's my guess. That's what I'd be guess based on talking to people that I know that do that. At about that size, 50 properties. But then one nugget that I'd want to say for you is like really look at it. Now is the time I would think you would look at potentially switching to based on your goals, right? And I don't think I know everything. So based on your goals, I think you might need to look at switching to property management structure. You don't want to get to a co-host. You don't want to be like a co-host with 50 listings all on one co-host account, right? Like that's probably how you're doing it because that's how I started it, right? You probably want to look at switching into to doing it the property management way, especially once you get your license, because at that point, with 50 listings, you have a sellable business, right? So if you have 50 co-host listings, they're not going to be worth as much because it's on your co-host Airbnb account, a bunch of other things. It's the owners have their own separate, a lot of other reasons. But if you're going to try and get that big, start now on transitioning to probably the property management structure. I know that's kind of what I think Sjogren's group. I'm not in it, so I'm not saying anything, but I think that's kind of what a lot of those people do too at that level where they do not co-hosting, right?
Yeah, most of them do the property management structure. And I mean, there's a couple nuggets I want to pull out there. So if 8 people, in my experience, I've managed a lot of sales teams, managed lots of people. I would say 12 people reporting to one person is kind of the cap on being able to effectively manage those groups and hold them accountable. You get to 15, you get to 20, it's like your quality is going to start to slip. And so that actually makes me feel pretty good about 50 because 8 to 12 people to run a 50 property portfolio, you can have pretty good control over that portfolio, which is cool. Other thing you said about mics, what were you saying about? Oh yeah. So if I could give Mike's program 2 calling cards in my experience, it's mindset and operations. Those are the 2 operations in terms of building an actual property management business. Like I've up until this point been focused on basically getting owners and killing it for the owners that I do have. The operations and scaling and all that stuff, like I haven't paid a ton of attention to it because I'm not there yet. Now I am. And so I literally just renewed with Mike for the 2nd year. It's like going into this year, it's like, okay, now the real operations efficiencies, processes, SOPs, all that stuff really starts to bake out. And I haven't really used Mike's group for that up until this point. But I mean, the resources for that are huge in Mike's group. So
yeah, now you're going to get your money's worth. Yeah, now you're going to get your money's worth for the mastermind, sure, because you're going to have all the shortcuts to that and on how to hire a VA and stuff like that. So it sounds like you're going from whatever you said, 7 to 12, or you're in double digits, right? So like that's to me, that's the time to get a VA. And I did that, and it was tremendous. And that's a good thing to where you can like start doing all the little rinky-dink tasks. You can go ahead and get those off by somebody else,
Yeah, totally.
And he's still too busy to text me back. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. I'm always letting people down, man. It's just
you're like, sorry, I just saw this 3 days later. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I forgot why I asked you it.
You're just mixed in with the 75 cold texts that he sent to prospects.
I'm just the fucking normal person too. I don't get any presidents in his phone or anything. I don't get a fucking favorite bar. Shit.
I'll pin you to the top. I'll pin you to the top of my messages going forward.
Something at least. I'll change my profile picture too, just so it fucks with you. So with all these properties that you're going to be onboarding, and I know we got to wrap up pretty quick here. I know you got a hard stop, and we got a hard stop. So are you going to be actually hiring a VA?
So I actually think my first hire is going to be a legitimate operations manager, because I want to hire somebody that I can foresee putting in a leadership role. Actually, I may not be making that decision if I didn't know somebody that I want to hire for it. I've got a couple family friends actually that have wanted to get involved in the business, and they're just like really good values fits, and they have the skill sets for it. So my plan right now is to hire that person, one of those two people, and onboard them, teach them how to do the operations piece, and then potentially hire VAs or part-time workers or whatever to go up underneath them to handle the more, simple day-to-day activities. So I would imagine by March of next year, I'll have the operations manager plus one, maybe two VAs by March of next year.
Awesome.
How's that sound, fellas? Does that sound like about the right number?
It sounds like March of next year we'll have you back on and find out.
All right, cool.
There you go.
All right. Well, Austin, do you have anything else?
No,
Do
I
you
was just
wanna
gonna see. We got to figure out how Cody's gonna ship us a couple of those hats. That's it. Is that your brand on there? Because
That is.
that is sharp, dude. We're gonna have to get us a couple of those. But and Matt, you never got me a co-host bros hat that you wear on every single show. You never got me one of those. So cool, man.
For one, we do know how you can get a hat, Austin. You could leave us a review, any kind of review, and send a screenshot to info@cohostbros.com. And you could win yourself a hat, and maybe I'll throw in some co-host stickers. I don't know.
There you go. No, but I'm good, man. I'm all good. I think that was great. That was tremendous value. Like, we've had a lot of people getting started. Then we've had people at a very high level. Then now we've had Cody kind of like right in this happy medium where he's going through a lot of stuff and learning a lot. And I learned some stuff from him today too. So I think it was a very valuable episode. Absolutely.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
Thanks,
You brought
fellas.
a
I
lot of
appreciate
value. You brought a lot of value. So we appreciate you as well. You just want to let everybody know where to find you. Additionally, you and I will talk offline later on, try to help you out with your email situation. And then I would check out Trust Accounting and probably save you a lot of time.
Yeah, let's
at least from what I
chat.
Understand. So
yeah,
but yeah,
let's chat. So we have a website, ballbnb.com is our website. You can email me, Cody at ballbnb. Find me on Facebook, Cody Ball, or we also have a Facebook page that is Ball B&B. So reach out. Any questions? I mean, obviously, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'll try to help anybody that I can. And yeah, just really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then, Austin, you have an announcement about another podcast that you have. Do you want to tell our listeners about your podcast?
I have another podcast that we do locally here in the New Braunfels area that Matt can tell you a lot more about because he's setting it up and doing all the work. Hey, if you're trying to launch a podcast or set up a podcast, I'm marketing Matt's business that he hasn't started yet. He will set your podcast up, get it streaming on all platforms. He's not cheap, but he's very good at what he does, and he can train your VA on how to do everything so you don't need his services going forward. How does that 30-second elevator pitch sound for business?
And honestly, I did not charge Austin. I told Austin I would do it for free. Austin just keeps raising the price. So, I mean, that's all. That's all on Austin. I mean, so anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. I think you learned a lot about all of us personally, and it was a great show. So, with that, I'll let Austin ring us out.
All right, peace.
Hey guys, if you could just leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, that would be awesome. Right now we're running a contest and we're going to pick winners to get some free Co-Host Bros gear. All you got to do is leave us a review. Doesn't matter what the review is. It could be a 1-star, it could be a 5-star. Just shoot a snippet of it to info@cohostbros.com. That's info@cohostbros.com. And we would really appreciate it. Thank you all for listening.
The Co-Host Bros Podcast.